Hello everybody, welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. Time for another daily spawn. We're up to issue 44. Been a little bit of a trend lately on these last few issues that the stories are shorter. There's less going on. Maybe it's because we're not having those big exposition dumps, which is a good thing. Like I've talked about in the past, we again have that recap paragraph inside the front cover. The other thing of note is that we're not jumping around from plot line to plot line. You know, it used to be we always checked in on Terry and Wanda. We always checked in on Sam and Twitch. We checked in on Jason Wynn. And we checked in on Spawn. Now it's like we get maybe one subplot and then the main story. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's a function of the stories are just have less pages. McFarlane seems less inclined to give extra pages like he did in the beginning. So I don't know. It might just be the evolving comic industry or what have you. The other thing that's interesting about issue 44 is not only is it a rather short issue in terms of story, it's very different looking art from Tony Daniel. And I think it has a lot to do with the way the book is colored. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will dive into the book. Pretty solid cover from Tony Daniel. As we look at the credits, you see Todd McFarlane story, Tony Daniel pencils, as I said, Kevin Conrad on inks, as we've come to expect when Tony Daniel is doing the pencils. Tom Orzechowski is only listed as the editor here. For the first time on a Spawn comic, he's not doing the letters, which is interesting. We have Lois Buhalis doing the letters, and then Todd Broeker, who has colored the Tony Daniel issues previously, is listed as the color artist. But what's interesting, so previously, every time Tony Daniel was doing the art, we had Todd Broeker listed as the color artist, and then Roy Young was listed as computer color assist. Here, it just says Todd Broeker and Roy Young. So I think maybe Roy, was more knowledgeable about computer coloring, and that's why he was helping Todd out, but he's not listed as computer color assist here. So my thinking is that Todd Broeker had learned enough to say, okay, I'm gonna colorize this using the new technology around this time of computerized coloring. Roy Young's still there to help him, but Todd Broeker didn't color this traditionally, and I think that's why it looks so different. You can see on that first splash page there, they're taking advantage of this new kind of coloring to give these planets a lot of texture. We have space, we have rocks, and there's a voiceover, and the voiceover is talking about how it's not right, and I'm the only one afraid to voice it. And you kind of get the context as you go along. They think they can question my power, protocol. Angela's forgotten. She's lost focus, obviously referring to the angel, Angela, the Spawn hunter that we've met previously. Angela's supposed to be the best of the best, but she forfeited her position by committing her sin. So we're not really sure, like, who's talking, who this voiceover is talking. Obviously referring to Angela. And then on the next page, it's this barren landscape with these angels. They sort of look like Angela, but apparently none of them are. And we get this context of this one angel who's apparently talking, and she's saying she really has it in for Angela. Angela is apparently like at the top of the heap when it comes to angels, and so she's the one allowed to go down and hunt Hellspawn. This woman wants her turn. This angel wants her turn. She's saying that Angela, but by what she did in the Mangela miniseries, has forfeited her opportunity. She feels that Angela's a traitor. What does she say? She says she shared fluids with this Hellspawn. It was a choice beyond imagining. Why won't anyone see that? She's mocking our laws. And apparently even the other angels are like, what, you're pushing it pretty far here with what you're saying. Because she sees the look on their faces, and she says, don't look at me like that. You guys know I'm right. This is one of Malbolge's soul suckers, is how she refers to Spawn. And that's all the sanction I need. That's all the excuse that I need. She says, I broke all of Angela's records during training, right? I shattered all of her records. I'm ready to take her place. I should be, top of the heap. And if I go and take out this spawn quickly without mercy, then the people that are in charge of heaven are going to see that I belong at the top. And if you're thinking that it's too late, forget it, right? I'm number one. I'm clean and I'm going down there. So she, unsanctioned, apparently plans on going to Earth and killing Al Simmons. So what that's going to do with her breaking the rules, whatever, I guess we'll have to wait and see. We do then peek in on Al Simmons, and much like last time, how I wasn't quite sure, we know that Al Simmons was hurt, right? His body was damaged with the explosion at Curse's castle, and he'd been dissected, and then his costume basically swallowed up all of his dismembered parts and was sort of holding him together like a scarecrow. But his costume seemed to be able to kind of manipulate him. Exoskeleton, he could sort of walk and move around. But then all of a sudden, last issue, we just saw him laying under this tree, which was kind of interesting. Like, at what point did it seemed like he was even more damaged then. And we also saw that a lot of quote unquote evil creatures were sacrificing themselves to the Hellspawn, to Al Simmons. They would feel a call, they would feel an urge to go and share their life energy to make sure the Hellspawn lived. And it looks like that is continuing as Al Simmons is trying to rebuild his body. The symbiote itself is trying to rebuild his body. And most of this happens at night. And in the top panel on that right page there, you can see that his limbs are regrowing themselves. And this symbiote is very much being parasitic when it comes to pulling life energy from these animals. They're referred to as Satan's children. And so on the next page, it's a little gruesome, but we're told about how, insects and maggots and worms and all these dark, supposed dark creatures are sacrificing themselves so that Spawn can rejuvenate himself with this life energy. What's interesting is he doesn't eat it, like, thank God, because that would be pretty gross. But you do see the full page splash there from Tony Daniel as he's pouring this meal, this rib sticking meal, it's called, over his head. And he's basically, like I said, he's pulling in the life force. It's that greenish looking energy there. He's pulling in the life force from these worms and maggots and whatnot. And that's what's replenishing him. And McFarlane's flowery language, the dank juices slake the macabre thirst, moistening crusty layers damaged by their recent radical dismemberment. So yeah, taking this life energy is healing Spawn. He's definitely in sort of a regenerative state right now. So as he's taking in this energy, he does feel sort of high, I guess. It's sort of a high for him, which causes his thoughts to wander. So he's thinking back to the castle. We see it there. And again, this has to be computer colored because if you look at the flames, you look at that. I mean, this page almost looks like, at least the background where the castle is, that's the silhouette for exactly what it looked like before it exploded. So again, I think, not that I'm saying Tony Daniel is cheating, but again, computerized coloring, digital art, it's in its infancy here, but they're definitely experimenting because this book, it just looks so different. It just has such a different look and feel visually than anything that's come before, and it looks digitally painted. So it's interesting. I don't know that I like it as much as, digital art will eventually get to, and I certainly don't like it as much as the traditional art that Tony Daniel has. But I mean, I'm nitpicking, and I don't mind this. It doesn't look bad. It's just, it feels a little amateurish. But again, I don't hold anything against them. They were learning how to use these tools. This stuff was brand new for everybody. And in terms of the color, the actual tones, I don't mind it either. Although this page does kind of look wildly out of place compared to, orange and red with some green on the previous page. And then we get to the red and grays of the following page. And this one with the purple and the blue, yeah, it doesn't really fit. But anyway, he is remembering the experiments. He's remembering the pain. He's remembering being dissected. He's remembering curse, and he's trying to gain control of his body with this overwhelming amount of energy that he's taken in, and just trying to come back to himself. And so what thought does Spawn always go to, Al Simmons always go to when he tries to ground himself? Well, of course, he's going to think of Wanda. So before we can head down that path with Al Simmons, we do check in on Sam and Twitch. They've lost their jobs, even though Banks killed himself. They haven't been hired back. So they're kind of brainstorming on what to do next. Twitch still hasn't told his wife he'd lost his job. Don't know how long that's going to last, because at some point the paychecks are not going to come, right? I mean, we found out they don't get pension, they don't get retirement. Like, it was totally scorched earth what Banks did to them. But their dedication to the investigation has them deciding, well, we need to go after Spawn still. He should be our next target, because maybe he can tell us where he got that file. Because although we took down Banks, there were a lot of other people incriminated in that file. You know, a lot of other people that that were involved. And for Spawn to be the only, or for Banks to be the only one that, you know, that faced some sort of justice, you know, that's not right. So they decide that they're going to go after Spawn. How they're going to do that, I guess we'll have to wait and see next issue. Meanwhile, Spawn is dreaming of Wanda as he's trying to calm himself and settle down and continue to regenerate. And yeah, again, you can see that full page spread. I mean, that does not look like Tony Daniel just drew that with pencils. I mean, Wanda, I mean, her face looks, the proportions don't look exactly right. It looks a little mushed. It definitely has a different look and feel than anything we've seen in a Spawn comic before. Not that it's bad, and I do like the layout. I like the bats. I like the coloring. But yeah, the way her hand is there, you can definitely tell. Like, maybe Tony Daniel even drew this digitally. I don't know, but it definitely has a different look. On the next page, we see that there's a bear, and he's coming. He's been called. He's coming to give some of his life force to Spawn. And we also, for the first time in a long time, see the power meter. And it's at 6801. So that's interesting, because that's the last power level that we saw. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same number we saw the last time the power level showed up. And we haven't seen Spawn go out of his way to use his powers. But yet these people, or these animals, you know, they're sacrificing some of their life energy. So they're healing his body, but they're not filling up the power meter. Like, are those two separate things? Like, it seems like Spawn could have used, and he has in the past, could have used his abilities to heal himself, but then some of his power would go down. So yeah, it's not completely clear how that works. Like, somehow he's healing by taking energy from other people. So was he always at this level, even when his body was desiccated? It's not real clear. So anyway, Spawn sort of starts losing himself again as the energy transfer is coming from this bear, and then all of a sudden the bear stops and blows up with the bloosh. And Spawn's like, wait, what the heck's going on? And we see that this angel has showed up, and she gives her little speech saying, okay, your symbiote levels are obviously low. This is perfect. You know, heaven must be smiling down on me to catch you in a recharge state. It's going to make you even easier to beat. Your scum, your touch contaminates everybody that you come in contact with, including Angela. And I'm going to take out you, and I'm going to take out your once heavenly concubine, Angela. And Spawn's like, Angela? I mean, this clearly is not Angela, but, you know, why is this woman talking about Angela? And this angel reiterates, yeah, I can understand why you do what you do, because of your master, and he's the one that gave you power, and he's evil, whatever. But I don't understand Angela. Why did she choose to side with you? Why did she choose to, share fluids with you? She knows better than that. And, she's going to pay and you're going to pay. And, again, this woman is very much a zealot and definitely out for Spawn. And she's kind of kicking his butt. Like, again, I don't necessarily hold it all against Spawn because he is in this weakened state. And although he's not really fighting back, and he looks like he's getting his butt kicked, it doesn't look like she's actually inflicting a lot of damage. I mean, even to the point where Spawn's like, yeah, just bring it on, right? You're hunting Hellspawn just like Angela was, and you want a trophy for your showcase. Bring it on. Keep attacking me, because at some point you're going to inflict enough damage that my armor is going to take over. You just need to trigger it. So bring it on. And this angel's like, okay, I think you're bluffing. I think your symbiote's weak, but maybe that's exactly how Angela killed so many Hellspawn. Maybe she always waited until the Hellspawn were in a recharge state, and she attacked them when they're weak to kind of pad her stats. So I'm happy to give you what you want. I'm happy to kill you, basically. And meanwhile, the Violator knows that this is happening. Maybe he's watching in some way. He gets so excited he actually transforms from the clown to the Violator, and he's talking about how it's great to see Al Simmons getting his butt kicked by this angel, and how he's in a really good position with Wanda and Terry and Granny, and Jason Wynn's done a good job of putting the screws on them, and he can't wait to finish off that part of his plan as well. So it seems like everything's coming up roses for the Violator at this point. Meanwhile, for whatever reason, maybe because the costume's weakened, maybe because it's in the recharge state or what have you, this angel is getting the better of Spawn. His costume is still not triggering. It's still not protecting him. And so on the last page here, we see this angel saying, okay, it's over. I'm sending you back to your master. There's only one way to permanently kill an undead being, and that's to cut off its head. And I'll make sure Angela holds your head before she dies. So we see her lift her sword above her head, and she's about to cut Spawn's head off. So yeah, it's somewhat of an action-packed issue. In the first half is a little bit of catch up. Let's catch up with Spawn. Let's see. Well, first of all, let's be introduced to this new angel who doesn't get a name. But apparently they're just out on these desolate alien-looking planets, and then they can travel to Earth when they want through this gate, even though they're not supposed to without permission. Then we see Spawn regenerating. We check in on Sam and Twitch, and we see the angel attack. So like I said, not a huge story. It's really fast-paced, a lot of action, really cool art. But in terms of the aesthetic of the art, I mean, this, if you put this next to, right next to another Tony Daniel issue, I would think that it would look quite different, at least especially the backgrounds. Now, when we look at those Sam and Twitch pages, those look pretty standard. They look pretty like traditional. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he, drew those traditionally. But then a lot of the other pages, it's almost like he only drew the foregrounds and all the backgrounds were done digitally, because they definitely have that digital painted quality where everything's a bit foggy. And it's like, again, they were doing a lot of experimentation. So I don't mind it per se, but it does lose something in the feel of the story. It doesn't feel as tactile. It feels a little more, what's the word? Not fan, a little more dreamlike. It feels a little more dreamlike with those kind of soft backgrounds. There's not a lot of hard lines. It's almost like an airbrushed quality to the background. I mean, it allows them to experiment and do a lot of cool things, but just a very different feel. So we'll have to see if that continues on the next Tony Daniel issue. Maybe it continues on the next Greg Capullo issue as well. Maybe they're just experimenting with computer coloring. I'm not real sure. In terms of the dialogue, it's McFarlane. It's a little flowery. We didn't get any exposition dumps. We did get the the summary from the previous issue inside the front cover, so I appreciated that. All in all, a solid issue. Who this new Angel is, what her relationship to Angela is, don't know. It does seem to be something McFarlane does frequently. I think this is the third time he's done it, where we get introduced to a new character. They play a very important role in the particular issue that they debut in. We never get their name. I don't know if he thinks that's building drama or suspense or mystery. I think you got to give the name in the issue that they debut in, even if it's at the end. But that's just, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit. Still don't understand, like I said, how Spawn was all of a sudden incapacitated when, the issue we saw where he was helping out the young comic fan, Pat Shaughnessy, how he was able to sort of move around. And in the next issue, his body's like all wasted away and desiccated. But whatever, it's interesting. I don't know about this repeating theme of Spawn being taken out of New York and then having to sort of battle his way or hitchhike his way back to New York, though. That seems to be getting a little bit repetitive. I'm all for him. Just give me the stories in the back alley. Like, there's no reason why this story couldn't have taken place in the alleys of New York. Not sure what we gain by having it out in West Virginia or wherever he is, other than, I guess, it gives the opportunity to have more wildlife go to Spawn, feel drawn to Spawn to give up some of their life force. So, but anyway, we'll see. He should be back in New York soon. How Sam and Twitch are going to track him down, what they're going to ask him. Are they going to find out that he's actually on, I was going to say on the side of angels, no pun intended, but he's actually a good guy trying to do the right thing. Obviously, we still have the whole story thread with Violator probably going to pull the money from Wanda's hospital, probably going to mess with Grandma's pension fund and IRS audit thing. It feels like that's getting ready to all blow up here, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Don't forget to go over to Rocky's YouTube channel. Hopefully he's going to join back up with the Spawn Daily soon. His channel is Comic Boom, Comic Space Boom, ! Subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you know when new content comes out. If you are already subscribed, and that's where you're checking us out, but you're not subscribed to the Comic Source where we do our audio-only content, be sure you go to your favorite podcasting app on your smart device or your favorite podcasting platform, Google, Stitcher, iTunes, whatever it is. Do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the interviews or content that we put out there. So as always, I want to thank everybody for joining and for your support, and we'll talk to you next time.